This was yesterday. Jay Inslee posted, there's a bunch of wildfires happening in Canada. The eastern part of the United States is really seeing a lot of the effects of the smoke that are drifting down.
Midwest, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, all under health advisory warnings because of smoke.
In fact, was it Chicago or Detroit that had for at least a couple of days they had the worst air quality on the planet?
Detroit. Yeah,
okay.
Worst on the planet.
Yeah.
Which we did a couple summers ago, remember?
Yeah, I remember that.
Seattle, Washington had worse air than Beijing.
So Jay Inslee posted, he says, millions of Americans are now breathing the consequences of the climate change that is fundamentally changing North American forests. Jay Inslee's very quick to post on anything climate change. It's kind of it's the only tool in his bag. Todd Myers, you posted about an experience that Mark Twain had talking about Canadian forest fires in 1895. And I read that on the show yesterday, and Spike said that's an asinine take. And then you texted me today and you said, hey, I saw that clip of Spike saying that I have an asinine take. I'd love to expand a little bit on, context of what I was discussing. I said, that would be delightful.
That'd be delightful.
So now, Todd, should we let our guest
be delightful?
Should we let our guest start?
Please.
Okay, Todd, please explain.
Yeah, so I showed that quote to a colleague of mine, and he said, that's one of the nicest things people have said about you. So
you're welcome.
I used to work at the Washington State Department of Natural Resources and worked in, forest health and other things like that. And the point that I was making with that quote about 1895 is not that forest climate change can't have an impact on forest fires, but that smoke, it's in and of itself, is not evidence of forest fire, or is not evidence of climate change, rather, or not evidence of the impact of climate change. Of course, hotter temperatures create more circumstances for forest fires. There's no doubt about that, and we have seen increased temperatures. But when you look at what the causes of forest fires are, climate change is significantly down on the list of things that are causing it, both in Canada and in Western Washington. And there was a great study just a few years ago from Science, and it was actually from the researchers of the Forest Service, where they ranked different things that were most important in terms of increasing forest fires. And forest health was far and away number one, and climate change was way down the list. Not zero, but it was way down the list. And so I just think Governor Inslee is very glib about blaming everything on climate change and saying, well, there's smoke, it must be climate change. That's simply not the case.
Well, you mentioned forest health being a much higher ranking factor toward wildfire than climate change, but isn't forest health also determined by or impacted by climate change? I mean, drier proliferation of pests in the forest because of drier, hotter climates. Right, more drought, more dried out vegetation. All those are climate change, I think, directly affected elements. And what I was speaking to is that I looked this up, we've had 7 of the 8 most extreme wildfires in recorded history have been in the last 10 years. So it seems to me that while there's always been wildfires and there are many causes for wildfires are becoming more extreme and more frequent because of climate change. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yes and no. First off, I'm not sure that.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not sure that the most extreme forest fires in history have been in the recent years. In the United States and in North America, early in the 1900s, we actually had many more acres burned than we are now. And part of that is what has caused the problem, which is that for a long period of time, we stopped fire from being, which is a natural part of these systems. And so what happened is that forests grew overgrown and unhealthy. And so when you say climate change creates forest health problems, that's sort of true. But a much larger impact is that we have taken fire out of these forests, and that forests grow very dense and together, and there's so many trees that they are weakened, and they're not able to fight off pest infestations by sapping them out. They don't have the energy. And so what happens then is what used to be a pest infestation that forests could deal with now takes over in weakened trees, not because of climate change, but because we have too many trees left. And so actually, I tweeted that I was going to be on today and posted a video that I hope people will look at. One of the best groups dealing with this is the Colville tribes because they deal with forest health, and they are thinning their forests so their forests are healthier and more resistant both to climate change, but also to pest infestations and other things. That's what we need to focus on. Climate change is a cause, but it's not the main cause, and it's not the solution either.
So I guess when you're right, and the Colville, by the way, the reservation, that tribe right now is dealing with intense fire as we speak. So our thoughts with them, and I hope that's not as less devastating as it potentially could be. You know, when Jake read your quote about Mark Twain, like we've always had forest fires, I was just like, how does an event 100 plus years ago have any bearing whatsoever on whether or not things are getting worse with regard to forest fires because of climate change? That's why I use the A word. I dropped an A word bomb on your comment.
You said asinine.
I said it was an asinine thing to say.
Pretty glib about it, too, if I'm honest.
And I stand by that. I mean,
you still think it was asinine?
Well, Todd,
after all of that explanation, you still think it was asinine?
You misrepresented Todd's comment.
No, I didn't. I read it verbatim.
No, but you said the reason Inslee was wrong is, and Todd shows right here, because there was a fire in 1995. So the asinine comment came from you, not from Todd Myers.
You see, I have to deal with this every single day. Every single day.
Well, and look, to be fair, it's hard to convey in 280 characters, right? What everything that I've just said. So
you're well versed. You're well spoken.
Let me
on
ask
the
you
topic.
This, Spike. Since you've brought me into this, now
sure.
You're calling me asinine.
I don't know. You just sit on the side like that makes me nervous.
Every time that, I'm just like gaining information here, and I'm waiting to use it against you. Every time.
Oh, look, we're out of
time.
Oh,
now we're out of time.
I love this job.
You know what happened? You know what caused that? According to Inslee and Spike, that's climate change right there, stopping me from being able to make my point.
No, we'll have this conversation again.
No, honestly, and you can back me up on this, Mr. Myers. Every time Jay Inslee posts about climate change, no matter what, any fire he's posting about, he's not looking at what caused the fire. Many of them are human started.
Oh, absolutely.
He's just saying, this is climate change, obviously climate change, somebody please buy my book. That's my point. He's trying to jump into this every single time that he can because he's trying to get his name out there, or he's trying to sell you something, or like Al Gore, he's trying to make a bunch of money off of it.
He's trying to stay relevant so he can run for some public office.
He's trying to stay relevant in any way possible, and that was my point with Jay Inslee.
I think that's a good point. I think he is just trying to sell books, when really people should be buying my book, Time to Think Small, at Amazon.
Bingo.
By the way, your book, Flame Retardant, not Jay Inslee's. His book's a fire danger.
We don't know if that's actually the case. What's your book called, Todd?
It's called Time to Think Small. It's about how to solve environmental problems like forest fires by using technology.
Can I find it on Amazon?
You can.
Great.
Check it out.
Thank you, Todd.
All right,
you're a
Todd
good man.
Myers, you're a good man.
I retract all my comments.
I don't think you're asinine, Todd.
I don't either
think
anymore.
You're a good dude.